Seventh graders, stellar scientists, here's what you need. You need your science notebook. We're going to use that in multiple ways today. We're going to use that to fill in a brand new entry over plant cells. So we're wrapping up animal cells today and moving into plant cells. You also need your textbook. We're going to use our textbook just a little bit to help us learn about plant cells. So here's why you're here. Here's the reason you're here. Here's what we're going to do. First of all, we're going to review animal cell parts and pieces. I'm going to get you guys, some of you guys, out of your seat a little bit and help us review it, okay? After that quick review, then we're going to take our short quiz. It's very short, very sweet. The classes have been doing cellular on this. Cellular. They've been doing awesome on this. They're smart little particles, you know. Now then after we wrap up with animal cells, then we're going to move into plant cells. Plant cells next. All right. Now, we're going to learn 3 new parts and pieces. Just 3. And then what we're going to do is we're going to build a Venn diagram. We'll build it on our board up here. But not only that, you'll build it in your notes. And we're going to compare and contrast plant and animal cells, seeing how they're alike in many ways, but not alike in other ways, okay? All right, so that's what today will look like. And then finally, you get your homework for Wednesday. Now then, you'll get a handout. And Wednesday's homework is kind of dual purpose here. First of all, you have your egg osmosis, right? You're finishing up that experiment. You're going to turn that in on Thursday. But you also get a handout today, okay? That handout reviews and recaps animal cells and plant cells together. All right. So let's get things rolling here. First things first, let's do a little review. I'm just going to randomly select someone. And if I call your name, here's what you're going to do. You're going to come up here in front of all of us and in front of the camera. Everyone say hi, virtual students.
Hi, virtual students.
And what you're going to do is you're going to help us and our virtual students review, okay? So if I call you up here, you're going to come up here to our animal cell model, and you pick out one part, just one organelle, and you show us which organelle you're going to select. But not only that, tell us, what does that organelle do for the cell? In other words, why did God stick it inside your cell? Okay? Randomly selecting. Are we ready? Emery?
No,
she's out.
Hi, Emery.
She's not here.
All right, let's see who else is randomly selected. Hopefully they're here. Jill, you've been randomly selected. All right, Jill, come on down.
Come on down.
Come on.
All right, come to our animal cell model here. Point out one organelle. Point it out to us. Tell us what it does and what its job is.
This stuff,
Ooh.
this gray stuff is the jelly-like substance that keeps all of this protected, and it's the cytoplasm.
It is the cytoplasm, isn't it? And it protects all the parts inside. Awesome job, Jill. Thank you. All right, next randomly selected person. Who is it going to be? Briley.
She's not here. Hi, Bradley.
Hi, Briley. All right, next randomly selected person then is Lila.
That's me.
She's here. All right. Come on down, Lila. All right, we got a one cell part, one cell piece. Tell us what it is and what it does.
Okay, so this is like this isn't one of them.
All right, what is that cell part?
This, I believe, is the vacuole, right?
Yes.
And it is the storage unit
You got it.
of the,
So it can store
Cell.
food, waste, or water, right?
yes.
And it's the vacuum. Awesome job. Let's give Lila a hand. Woo. Thank you. All right, next randomly selected person is Tyler Nelson.
Take one for the team.
So this is the nucleus, and inside of the nucleus are the chromosomes.
Whoa, did you just give us 2?
Tyler.
Oh, he's trying to steal our thunder here. Wait, no, hold on.
What did you?
All right, so you told us about the nucleus and the chromosomes, right? All right. So what does the nucleus do?
The nucleus is the brain of the cell. It's the control center. It can tell what can come in and out of the cell membrane and stuff like that.
Oh, yes, it's like the brain, isn't it? That's the nucleus. Okay. Give it up for Tyler. Good job. Now, he also told us where the chromosomes are stored, didn't he? He told us they're in the nucleus. So the next person, please come up here and tell us about the chromosomes. Tell us what they are. What do they do? Why did God put them in you? Jackson Whitaker? I know you.
This is where they are. I'm not really sure what they do. Aren't they like the thoughts? Maybe I'm not sure.
Kind of like the thoughts of the nucleus?
Yeah.
Okay. They're kind of like the thoughts of the nucleus. They're basically information, right? Information stored inside that nucleus. Now, Jackson, the chromosomes inside your nucleus, where do they come from?
You.
Half from me and half from your mama, right? Are you turning red?
Maybe.
Maybe. Okay. Good job. Why did I mask up? He's my own son. It's like I've masked up. I'm just in the habit of it. All right. So the chromosomes are inside the nucleus, right? They contain our genetic information. Now let me ask you something. We're going to be learning about plant cells today. Do you think plant cells have the same genetic information in them that we have?
No.
No.
We aren't.
If they did, I would be concerned about your family roots.
Oh, there's more jokes today.
Oh my goodness. All right.
One.
Yeah, you don't have roots in your DNA, do you? Plants have roots in their DNA. Anyway, okay. All right, so we still have a few more parts and pieces, don't we? So who will be randomly selected next to help us review? It is the one and only Madeline.
She's out.
Not here.
All right, so we'll pick Winston instead.
Yeah, Winston.
All right, Winston.
Alright, the only one left is the mitochondria,
Ooh,
which is what gives the cell its power.
yes. It's mighty, isn't it? It's mighty because it takes in these products and basically converts it to energy. So it's like the powerhouse of the cell. Awesome job. Let's give him a hand. Now, I think there's one more, isn't there?
Yes.
Ooh,
Somebody should get around
one
this
more. Who knows the final one? Let's see. I don't think we covered it yet.
Oh, that's two.
Oh, Andrew, why don't you come over here and cover that last organelle for us, please?
Three.
Well, I know that this is the cell membrane. That's what I was.
Ooh, that's a cell membrane? What is a cell membrane?
It's the wall of the cell.
It is the wall of the cell, isn't it? Why did God gift a cell with a cell membrane?
So that bacteria and viruses couldn't go into the cell.
Okay. So it's a protector, right? It guards and protects our cells. It lets certain stuff in, pushes certain stuff out. Just like your eggs that are bathing at home right now, right? They're letting in some of that material, and well, one of them is pushing out material, isn't it? All right, so give it up for Andrew. Good job. Thank you. I think everyone's ready for the quiz.
Oh, we're just jumping into it.
It's short, it's sweet, it's only 6 questions. It goes over all these cell parts and pieces found within the animal cell. So, what I'm going to do is pass out your animal cell quiz, and then you will have a word bank that will appear on the screen here in just a moment. So use that word bank if you need it to help you fill out the quiz, okay? All right, here we go. Now, as she does that, let's get our notes ready for a brand new section. We finished up with animal cells, and now we're moving to plant cells. So your title for today will simply be plant cell. What's your title, guys?
Plant cell.
Plant cell. There we go. All right, we're transitioning. Your papers are getting picked up, but everyone at this time should be writing plant cell as your new title. Thank you so much. discover plant cell parts today. Now, a plant cell is like an animal cell in many ways, but it's also very different in many ways. In fact, if you look at these two models up here, you see the animal cell that we've been working with. You know all of its parts and pieces now. You've proven that in your quiz. But if you look at it, it looks somewhat like this plant cell, but not identical, right? I mean, this looks familiar to you. That's familiar. All this gray stuff's familiar. This is kind of different. This is different. Those green things are very different. So what we're going to do is figure out how these two cells are like, but also how they're different from each other. All right. So let's do that with the help of our textbook. Everyone open up to page 60. Page 60 in your textbook, please. Obviously, a plant cell builds up plants, not you and I. But there are some similarities with plant cells and other cells out there as well. So on page 60, let's get introduced to a brand new organelle and see what it does for plants. But not only plants, this is actually found in some other cells also. So on page 60, you see it says cellular boundaries. That's the walls or boundaries around a cell. You know that an animal cell has this cell membrane, don't you? We've learned that. Does a plant cell have a cell membrane? If you look at it, it does. It also has a cell membrane. Here it's colored yellow. But notice it also has this thick outer wall beyond it, doesn't it? So let's learn about that thick outer wall now. So on page 60, let's have one person to read nice and loud and proud about the cell wall. All right. Owen, you get that?
Mm-hmm.
All right, cell wall, please. Thank you.
Some factories have fences or other additional boundaries outside the factory walls. Similarly, some cells have additional boundaries. For example, the cells of plants, bacteria, algae, and fungi have cell walls. The cells of animals and humans do not have cell walls. The substances found in a cell wall are made by the cell, transported outward across the cell membrane, and assembled just outside the cell membrane. The cell wall supports and protects the cell. Small holes in the cell wall allow certain substances to pass through.
Ah, thank you. So that outer layer of protection, you can see it here as well, can't you? Plant cells are very boxy. They have the extra layer of protection. So they not only have the cell membrane, they also have a cell wall. A cell wall is an extra tough wall that surrounds that cell membrane within a plant cell. So you can see it in our model here, can't you? Very easily. You can see the cell membrane in yellow, but then the cell wall in this brown and green color. So you can see that cell wall is nice and thick, supporting that plant cell. Now your textbook also told you that there are a few other types of cells with cell walls. So do you have cell walls?
No.
No. But plants do. But not only that, bacteria, algae, and fungi. They also have cell walls as well. Now let's think about this. What if God gave you a cell wall? Ooh. Now, think about your eggs. Your eggs that you have soaking right now. You took off the outer shell of them, didn't you? And you can feel the cell membrane. It's squishy. All your cells have that kind of barrier or boundary. That's probably pretty good, isn't it? That means you're flexible, you can move. But a plant has an extra layer of rigid protection around it. Does a plant need to move?
Not that much.
No.
It's trying to grow the light.
Okay. Now they can grow, but they usually stay stationary in one spot, right? So a plant has an extra layer of protection added to it to make it nice and rigid, which is why plants don't move, do they? Because they just stay in one spot. They soak up sunlight. They don't have to go out and hunt and find their food like you and I. So animals need to be flexible. We need to have cell membranes that are flexible, right? Animals do and humans do. Plants, on the other hand, need the extra support. So if you had a cell wall around your cells, you'd kind of be stuck, wouldn't you? You couldn't move. You'd be rigid. Yes, Joe?
So, like, besides the cell walls that we have, like, around our cells, would you, like, consider skin as a cell wall because it's protecting us?
Hmm.
against tissue?
Our skin is kind of like a cell membrane, isn't it? It's flexible, just like a cell membrane. Now, a cell wall would be more tough, rough, and rigid, okay? So it'd be kind of like the brick wall that surrounds our building out here. It's a tough outer shell. It's a good thing our cells don't have that, right? Well, we couldn't move. Ah! All right. So does everyone have a definition for a cell wall included in their notes? All right. So you see why God gave plants cell walls, right? They don't need to move. They just stay in one spot all their life. So that's why God gave them the extra protection, the protection they needed. And plus, we live in nice shelters. Plants don't, do they? Plants live out in the elements. So God gave them the shelter they need with their cell wall. Yes, sir?
So what about like algae and fungi?
Ooh. They also need the extra layer of protection as well. Okay? And we're going to get more in depth into those specific organisms later this year. Okay? Cool. Yes, David?
So is it just algae or is it all protein stuff?
Mainly algae. So not all protists.
Also, fungi.
Mhm.
It can sort of be flexible.
Right, it depends. It's going to vary by organism to organism. So, but plants are always going to have the outer tough ridge. That's so long. Yes, sir?
But isn't there a plant that, like, when you touch it, it folds up immediately?
Ooh. You're talking about how plants respond to touch, thigmotropism. We're going to learn about that as well. So even though plants don't move, they can be somewhat flexible, right? You can bend them. Sometimes they respond to touch. Sometimes they open up to light. So yes, they can move a little bit, but not anything like us, right? And we go run cross country and play basketball games. And, yeah. Yes, Joe?
Would a cell wall like include like the petals on a flower?
Mm-hmm.
Just the stem. Okay.
Basically all plant cells on that flower. Yeah, we have a cell wall. All right, so let's move on to the next extra part and piece within a plant. And it's found on page 64. So let's flip on over to page 64, please. Now on page 64, it's going to introduce you to this little green thing. It looks like a little green jelly bean inside a plant cell. This green thing is so important to plants. Now God didn't give us one of these, but if he did, whew, that'd be interesting. So this little green thing, there are a whole bunch of them in here. Some of them are cut open. This one is not. Let's figure out what this is and what it's filled with. Filled with, okay. Who would like to read that one paragraph here about chloroplasts? How about Andrew? Thank you, sir.
Chloroplasts. Many plant cells and some other cells have chloroplasts. These organelles are made of an outer membrane and stacks of inner membranes that contain the green pigment chlorophyll. Chlorophyll captures energy from sunlight. The energy is then used to make sugar in a process called photosynthesis.
Ooh, all right. Thank you, Andrew. So we call that green thing, what was the word? Uh-oh. Chloroplasts. So the chloroplast is the green thing. That's the green thing that looks like a jelly bean here on this model. So this here is the chloroplast. Now, let's go ahead and get a definition for chloroplast. Then we'll figure out what's the difference between it and chlorophyll. So a chloroplast is a plant part that uses 3 awesome ingredients. It takes sunlight shining from the sun, water soaked up through the plant roots, and carbon dioxide breathed into that plant from the air. to make plant food. You see, a chloroplast is like a kitchen. It's where the cooking is going to take place. And chloroplasts give plants their green color. And we see that. They're always green. Most plants have so many of these inside their cells that when we look at them, we don't see all the other colors. We don't see all the other colors inside the cell. We simply see the green showing forth. So this chloroplast gives all plants their green color. Okay? All right, remember, the chloroplast is like a kitchen. Okay, remember that. But inside is the oven. Inside the kitchen, that's where your oven's found, right? That's where the baking takes place. That's where the real cooking goes on. Inside this chloroplast, it is filled with a certain filling. Did you catch what that filling was? Andrew told you. He read it to you. What is it?
Chlorophyll?
Chlorophyll. That makes sense, right? A chloroplast is filled with chlorophyll. Yeah. We have a fill in here today. Well, let's go ahead and fill our brains with this knowledge, okay? Oh. Wow. I'm just full of jokes. Filled with jokes. Alright, so chlorophyll, the green pieces that fill the chloroplast. And this is where the real photosynthesis happens. I know you've learned about photosynthesis. But we're going to look at that process more in depth this next week. In fact, next week what we'll do is we'll take the atoms that are merged and brought together in the whole process called photosynthesis. So we'll see what happens inside the oven of a plant cell. So remember we said the chloroplast is like the kitchen, right? But inside the kitchen we have the oven. And the oven is the chlorophyll. That's where the baking and that's where the food making really goes on. Yes, sir?
So, you said that the chloroplasts are in all plant cells?
Yes.
So, I'm going to refer back to Jill's thing. What if it was on a petal of a flower? Then the petals aren't always green.
True.
So.
Now, some of those cells are going to have more chloroplasts than others. For example, leaves. Leaves have a lot of chloroplasts and chlorophyll doing their job. Now, the petals, not so much. Or the stems, not near as much. Okay? But yes, they will have some. Yes, Joe?
Why would like rose petals be red?
Ooh, yep. Other pigments are obviously in there. There's a lot less chlorophyll in there, right? Okay. So let's compare and contrast here for a moment, okay? What we're going to do is we're going to build a giant Venn diagram. All right? Now I'm going to raise this screen up. And we're going to make a classroom version. Oh, come on. My models are in the way now. So we're going to make a classroom version and a version in your notes, okay? So what we're going to do here is we're going to compare and contrast what we learned about both animal cells and plant cells. Now if you look on the screen, you see all the parts and pieces listed. I probably put that up too soon. But in an animal cell, you just took the quiz over 6 parts and pieces, right? Those same 6 parts and pieces are also in the plant cell, aren't they? So you see here the plant cell also has a nucleus. Absolutely. And inside that nucleus are chromosomes. Very different from your chromosomes, right? And it also has a cell membrane. It has a vacuole, but check out the vacuole of this plant cell. Whoa, looks like a swimming pool, doesn't it? Plant cells have huge vacuoles, whereas animal cells have small vacuoles. You can see that's way bigger than our animal cell model, isn't it? Now, mitochondria. Do you see the mitochondria in here? Absolutely, right? And cytoplasm, all that gray matter, that goo, that's definitely in here as well, right? So the plant cell has all those same 6 parts, that an animal cell has or that your cells have. But we also have those three additional parts, don't we? So we have the cell wall, the extra outer fortress and barrier. It also has the chloroplast, right? Filled with chlorophyll. All right. So you guys ready to make your Venn diagram? All right. Yes, Davis?
The thing at the bottom right of this model, is that just another chloroplast cut open?
Oh, down here? Yes, we have, this is a chloroplast that's not cut open, and we have multiple ones that are cut open. And notice the ones that are cut open, it looks like green pancakes stacked on top of each other, doesn't it? So here you're looking at the side, you're seeing them stacked. But here you're looking at them from the top, you're like looking down on them.
I was wondering about that.
Someone said these kind of look like chocolate chip cookies.
Kind of,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's what I thought when I first.
So they are green, they're kind of a hunter green. And then this is a much brighter green, at least in this model. But yes, the chlorophyll is like stacks. You can see it almost looks like stacks of pancakes, doesn't it? All right, so thank you for asking. All right, so let's make a Venn diagram of science in our notebook. We're gonna make one side about plant cells. We're gonna make the other side about animal cells. And then, of course, the middle is how they are alike, right? So how are the two alike? Get the string out of the way here. Now, when you make Venn diagrams, you were probably taught to make two giant circles, weren't you? I always struggle with fitting all my information in the circle. So what I like to do is I like to make boxes.
Can we use circles?
You can use circles.
Okay.
Like I say, I just like boxes because you can fit more information in a box than you can a circle. Okay. So everyone go ahead and build your own. I'll tell you what I would like you to do. Fill this Venn diagram in using what you've learned. Now I don't want you to only think of cell parts though. Think of what those cell parts do. Okay? Tell me how a plant cell is different from an animal cell, but also tell me how they are like each other. You can turn to your neighbor. I'm going to give you a few minutes to work together, and then we're going to build our own classroom version as a class, okay? So if you're working with your neighbor, make sure you're talking through your windshields or you're masking up, okay? All right, go ahead and fill out that Venn diagram. Well, let's switch gears and let's start building or begin building our own classroom version. So let's see how much information we can get here. So let's start with ways that are alike, okay? And as we create this, we'll also branch out. All right, so here we go. Let's start with how they are alike first of all. Right here, what do you say?
They all use they all need sunlight, water, and oxygen.
Need energy.
All right, so they all need.
Energy.
My goodness.
Can you make the shot? Oh.
I gotta find the workable marker.
Doesn't do shoes on there. It's inaccurate.
See if you can make it.
Oh, I missed.
Good try.
All right. So they all need or require energy, right? Okay, I'm going to write small. Let's see, what else? How are they all alike? Yes,
They all have lysosomes.
they do. Let's not focus on those parts quite yet, okay? So there are other parts and pieces that we did not learn. When they all need energy, do they both get their energy the same way? How do plants get their energy?
Sunlight and sometimes sunlight.
They make their own, don't they? They make their own food. I think there's a film on this. Animals. They have to find energy, don't they? So basically through the food that they eat. So plants make their own food, okay? All right, what else can we add as far as how they are alike? What else can we say? Now let's hold off on those oddball organelles, okay? Yes?
They both need vacuoles.
Alright, so they both have a vacuole, right? Now, are their vacuoles the same?
No.
Alright, plants have what?
Big vacuole.
Large vacuoles, right? Animal cells have small vacuoles, right? Vac. Alright, so how else are they alike? What else can we say here? Alright?
They have ribosomes.
Ribosomes, let's not focus on those
Oh, I thought we
yet.
already covered that.
Not yet. Yes.
They both have a nucleus.
Alright, they both have a nucleus, right? Do they both have chromosomes in that nucleus? Okay.
Except they're very different.
Alright. Different DNA, right? Very different DNA in the animal cell. Sorry, I'm abbreviating. Trying to move quickly. Alright, what else can we say as far as how they're alike? Jackson?
They both have cell membranes.
Okay, they both have cell membranes, right? Now, in the animal cell, that's their outer boundary, right? So we'll say outer B for boundary is cell membrane. What's the outer boundary of the plant cell?
Cell wall.
Cell wall instead, right? Okay. What else can we add? Sorry, we moved pretty quick, aren't we? Yes.
They both have mitochondria.
Okay. They both have mitochondria. So if they both have mitochondria, do they both do cellular respiration?
Yeah.
Yes. They both do cellular respiration. And next week we're going to specifically learn what that is and how that happens. It's pretty amazing. All right, what else can we add? Yes?
They both have, I think it's wrong, they both have cytoplasm.
Yep, they both have cytoplasm for sure. Anything else we could add? Owen?
They both respond to their environment.
Definitely. They both respond to their environment for sure. Yes?
They can both move to some extent.
Alright, so they both have movement, and then we can see how it's different. Animal cells are more flexible, right? And plant cells, on the other hand, are more rigid. I'm sorry, my spelling's horrible when I'm trying to go fast. Alright, what else can we add up here? Anything else? We said that plant cells make their own food. What do we call that process? Photosynthesis. Alright, what plant parts? We can add chloroplast and chlorophyll, right? Alright, now one thing you need before you take off is you need tomorrow's homework. So on your way out the door, I'll have that, and you pick that up, please. Alright, those of you joining us at home virtually, you can find this assignment, Wednesday's homework, posted in Google Classroom for you. Alright, thank you guys.